Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. Yep, I'm in cosplay again because I'm going to be talking about a character that's very important to me, Daredevil. For those who don't know, there's a brand new Daredevil TV series coming out. And while Daredevil was not my favorite superhero while I was growing up, for those who care, it was Batman, followed by the Green Lantern, and then the X-Men. I guess if I had to choose a personal favorite X-Men, Gambit. Although, get back to me on that one. I may have a different answer tomorrow. One of the things that I always liked about Daredevil was that he did represent the visually impaired community as a superhero, which we really don't have a lot of that. Oh, there's superheroes who in their secret identities have glasses and all, but they're not like blind like Daredevil. Kind of a different character. You add in the fact that he has just all the difficulties he faces throughout his adventures, and you really have a great character. Unfortunately, he's also written with varying levels of quality, and as someone who has read quite a few Daredevil comics at this point in my life, I always get worried whenever a new person is taking over writing. So please join me as I discuss my feelings and experiences with this character, and my thoughts and feelings on the upcoming Daredevil Born Again. So the one thing I want to bring up that is a obvious thing about me, I've made reference to it in previous free talks, I am severely visually disabled. How visually disabled? I'll put it this way. When I tell my eye doctors that I'm a YouTuber, they are shocked that I'm able to actually edit videos and get them out on a regular basis. So, yeah, I'm pretty damn visually disabled. And yet, no one told me about Daredevil when I was a little kid. Probably just because he wasn't popular enough for the average person to know about him. So when I got introduced to Daredevil, it was in my later part of elementary school when I had a lot of other friends who were into comics. And I got introduced to him not through Daredevil comics, but through cameos in other people's comics. And the next major memory I have of the character after that, showing up in the 1994 version of Spider-Man, which had a lot of really awesome cameos, including the Punisher. And it was really cool to see this character, and he was a badass, and written in a fairly decent way for the arc that he was involved with, and I do appreciate that. After that, I read more comics that had him and a few of his actual adventures, and I'd like, all right. Then that Ben Affleck movie came out. I hate that movie. Ben Affleck was a terrible choice for the character. The directing is horrible. That being said, the actor for Bullseye and the actor for Kingpin are both awesome. Elektra did not need her own spinoff. That was a terrible idea. So while I really, really disliked the movie, I'm at least glad they tried. After that, I know he made some cameos in a couple of video games, things like that. For the most part, my experience was just stuck with whatever comics I could get a hold of. As I got older, I continued to read more DC over Marvel. I would much rather read a Superman, Batman, Justice League, Green Lantern, especially Green Lantern, over probably 90% of Marvel comics that aren't called X-Men or X-Men spin-offs, as I was a huge X-Men fan growing up, and I think even now I still am, although there hasn't been a good X-Men comic in about 15 years. You know, since I'm on a tangent, did you know they replaced Daredevil at one point? You took disabled representation out of comics. Marvel, you are so lucky I no longer do comic reviews or have a comic blog or any of that other stuff I did when I was younger, because the rage I should have unleashed when that happened. I should have done it anyways. Tangents aside, when Netflix was going to do a Daredevil series, I was afraid it would be more Ben Affleck level, oh, I'm blind, this is how blind people move, kind of bullcrap. So I didn't watch it initially. In fact, it required multiple people telling me it was really awesome and you gotta watch it for me to actually watch it. I don't want to get too in-depth in terms of a review, because that's not really what this is about, but let me kind of tell you my general view on the Netflix series. Jessica Jones Season 1, way better than it has any right to be, but overall not super memorable. As I try to think back, I can't really remember a lot of what happened, but we had a really interesting villain. Season 2 was mostly terrible, with a few good character moments here and there. Specifically the ones that have Purple Man, like, cameoing, those are good parts. The setting up Patsy Walker as Hellcat, forget that stuff. Luke Cage season 1 began pretty good, fell apart horribly. I hate whiny Cage. Sorry, Luke Cage being a mopey mope is not Luke Cage. Luke Cage is one bad mother. Shut your mouth. Just talking about Cage. Season 2, I got 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes into it, and I quit. It was so terrible, and it was more crybaby Cage. I have no time for that. Iron Fist 1, horrible. Just all around terrible. Casting not great. The story was terrible. You get an out-of-shape dude with a mullet to play Iron Fist? Are you freaking kidding me? Ugh. Season 2, I never even touched. Why would I? Season 1 sucked. I doubt you improved. Punisher, Season 1, not bad. I liked the inclusion of Microchip, and I thought there was at least a few cool fights here and there, but not as good as I wanted it to be. Season 2, I was kind of done with Netflix Marvel at that point, so I never actually watched Season 2. The Defenders, the show that kind of ruined Marvel Netflix for me. Defenders was straight up horrible. I was actually looking forward to this. I was like, yeah, crossover, let's go! No real villain. The Hand are overall kind of boring. Their big boss was some old lady, and there was almost no good reason for the team to team up. Daredevil handled the Hand pretty well on his own. Why would he actually need backup? Worse yet, this was so terrible, it basically soured me on the rest of Marvel Netflix, and I barely watched anything else after that. Daredevil Season 1, I loved. There's nothing I could say about this season that hasn't already been said. Great action, great acting, amazing writing. Overall, one of the best seasons of television, not just superhero television, but television in general. Season 2 begins really good. I love a lot of that Punisher stuff. The second half kind of wavers a little bit. It's not as bad as some of the other stuff, but it's not as good as Season 1 and definitely not as good as the first half of Season 2. Highly recommend Netflix Season 1 and Season 2. They're both great. Season 3, I never finished. I got a little bored with it, I'll be honest. It wasn't terrible, and I probably should have watched the rest of it, and I probably will prior to Born Again coming out, just to say I've seen all of Season 3. And there you go, my lightning fast review of everything Marvel Netflix. I probably didn't miss anything, but I'm also doing this extemporaneously, so yeah, if I missed something, oops, I guess. But anyhow, I would say I at least enjoyed the time I spent with the Netflix Marvel Universe. I just kind of wish it was done a little bit better, I'll be honest here. But Daredevil was always strong. I liked it so much, I started cosplaying as Matt Murdock. Right here. This became my outfit if I did San Diego Comic-Con or WonderCon or LA Comic-Con. I'd almost always show up as Matt, and I'd say almost every time I'd run into either a Daredevil, usually the red version, occasionally people who did pre-costume version from Netflix, I'd run into them every once in a while, and obviously I run into a handful of Elektras and Spideys, lots of Spideys. At one convention, I believe it was San Diego Comic-Con, a really nice lady tossed a foam brick at me, and she didn't know I was actually visually impaired, so it just hit me. And then she's like, oh, he must have not noticed. She did a whole, hey, over here, and I turned my head, and then she threw it and hit me again. And then when the person I was with basically said, oh, he's visually impaired, she was hyper embarrassed. I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. I literally do this because it's like the one representation I get in comics that isn't a joke character. You know, I still have that brick. It's just super fun. I try to take it around to cons when I can, especially if I'm going to run into a Spider-Man or something like that, because it's always fun to just hold the brick out. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it took a lot of years, but Daredevil became an important part of my life. And the fact that the character oftentimes is portrayed as kind of a ladies' man, he definitely has a lot of issues he has to deal with, both with the loss of his father, with just how so many bad things always happen to the poor guy. Dude can't catch a break. Whenever something good happens in his life, about 12 bad things happen right after that. And it makes him a relatable person, because I think all of us at one point or another have had that part in our lives where it just feels like bad thing after bad thing after bad thing after bad thing. And to have a character that goes through all that stuff and then just keeps fighting, won't give up, doesn't show fear no matter how bad the situation gets, that's inspirational. Yeah, he's probably one of the best cathartic characters in comics. When he's written properly, and when he's written terribly, he's one of the worst. Which brings me to Disney. So the first thing I want to bring up is that I have watched several of the Marvel Disney Plus shows. They are all pretty much terrible for various reasons, some of which require you to be a fan of the lore of Marvel stuff, both in comics and MCU, to understand that they're tearing the lore apart seam by seam, and a lot of people applauded that for some reason. There's characters I really liked who just got completely horrible character assassination happen. And then there's new characters that I was starting to like that they just seem to ignore, like John Walker. It's always awesome to see US Agent in something, and then there's like, and we're gonna treat him like crap. And I'm like, why? I like that character, both in the comics and outside. I'm glad a friend introduced me to the character well before I got to see Falcon and Winter Soldier. The shows are usually way too expensive, and you can barely see that money on screen, which is also kind of pathetic, really. And it gets me really worried about what could potentially happen in the Daredevil show. Because thus far, Daredevil's appearances have been mixed in the MCU. His appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home was fun. It was fine. I was worried about how they were going to portray him, and literally one of my cosplayer friends was like, oh, dude, you're going to love his cameo. And I'm like, all right. And then, yeah, I love the cameo. I was hoping he was going to do more than just that short scene, but it is still nice to see Matt Murdock show up and do the whole catch the brick thing. His next appearance was in She-Hulk. Okay, She-Hulk is a pretty bad show. His appearance wasn't as disrespectful as I thought it would be to some extent. I thought they were going to do the, oh, isn't it funny, blind guy crashes into stuff kind of humor. I was half expecting some, what I call Velma humor, can't see anything without my glasses. And I don't need Matt Murdock to be Marvel's Mr. Magoo. So all that part there with him being a lawyer, some of the fighting stuff, I thought all that was fine. And I probably would have had zero issue, except for the fact that they then did that walk of shame sequence for some reason. No idea what the plan was of that one, but you went from something that I said, yeah, this is mid, but at least you could have done worse, to then immediately make me go, and you did worse. Then have him show up at the very end of the show as her just boyfriend, I guess, because sure. Now, I will say it's not like people haven't shipped She-Hulk and Matt Murdock before. I think they may have even had some encounters in the past. I've read very few She-Hulk comics, and I haven't read every Daredevil comic. So if they have in the past, I'm sorry, hardcore comic fanboys. Like I said, DC person growing up. That being said, I will say there was an ex-girlfriend where we kind of joked about us being She-Hulk and Matt Murdock because of my visual impairment, and she was tall. I've dated some odd women. Anyhow, his final appearance in the MCU prior to the show was him showing up in Echo. Now, I know you may not have heard much about Echo, primarily because it came and went in the blink of an eye. I did not watch the show because it looked terrible. I saw the clip of the Daredevil fight. I thought that was fine. It was as well choreographed as that show could do, though well below what we've seen in the Daredevil Netflix series. But at least they were trying. The treatment of Kingpin is just, ugh. Man, Disney's treatment of Kingpin is a whole just, wow. How to take one of the greatest villains in Marvel, not just the MCU, I mean in general, in Marvel, and just make him a clown for some reason. God, so many bad choices of Disney. Oh God, Disney Plus. It's such a nightmare. Anyhow, I had quite a few fears when I found out Disney was going to do a Daredevil show. And then we had all the behind the scenes stuff that was coming out, such as the fact that the show was supposed to be a comedy and a little more farcical originally, which they have subsequently changed due to complaints from Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox. Which, thank you guys. Thank you for actually caring about how your characters are portrayed on screen. And as far as I understand it, they took half the episodes and threw them in the trash. And the first few episodes they've re-tinkered around with and then done completely new episodes. Not only that, but the original version was supposed to have the gold suit from She-Hulk, and they dumped that and gave him the proper red suit again. Thank you. I have never liked the yellow suit. I think it looks stupid. And the only time I would ever use it is playing a video game where it was an alt costume just as a joke, and then swap him back to a better costume as soon as possible. It looks like things are moving in a positive direction, and that trailer, gotta admit, kind of got me a little hyped up for the show. So hopefully the show is a lot better than I'm expecting it to be. Hopefully they don't screw this up. Last year, I ended up reviewing X-Men 97 episode by episode, which was kind of draining, but it's just a TV show review and it goes by relatively quickly, so I don't know. I'm back and forth on it right now. I will say this, I am going to watch the show. At the very least, I'll give a review when it's all over. But if you want me to review every episode, let me know in the comments below, because that will be the last push I need to actually make this happen. Beyond that, let me know if you're interested in the Daredevil Born Again series. Are you worried? Are you hyped? Do you not care? Other than that, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. I don't do a lot of Marvel content, but if something catches my eye, I talk about it. Obviously, we have a big DC movie coming up later this year, and I will be reviewing Superman more than likely. Outside of comic book stuff, I have a lot of tabletop stuff on my channel, especially Battletech and me complaining about Wizards of the Coast. So check those out if you have the chance as well. Until next time, thank you for watching, and remember, I'll see you at the tavern. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. I'm the Dapper Bard, the reviewer without... Damn it, I can't even say it. The reviewer without fear. Man, I don't want to slap myself for making that joke. That's the stinger. Yeah, that's the stinger.